Hey everyone, I was asked about my macro thoughts on Bitcoin. I showed a little bit of my macro thoughts on Ethereum last time, and somebody asked me in response my macro thoughts, talking about very long term for Bitcoin. So I wanted to discuss that a little bit, what I'm seeing in the markets. This is a chart I published before, and I showed this chart with this as a deviation and expecting a deviation type move here. So on like a 3-day chart, I would honestly like to see some kind of correction like this one. You just move this over. I'd love to see something like this before we continue up again into this range. And from there, I think we might start seeing some distribution before coming down to the mid-range. The general idea is that once we test the mid-range, we'll have a bounce and then potentially test the point of control around 6,400. I don't know for sure that we'll get that low, but for me, let me go ahead and switch to the BLX chart. Well, I don't have to yet. For me, that gives us a structure like this. It's a large W, X, Y. Before seeing something longer term momentum upward. So if we look at the BLX, you can see time-wise, we had an impulse up, then we had a correction behind it. Impulse up, correction behind it. And really, we've got this long base here too. But I'll just count to this low here, time-wise. And we had an impulse up. So we're looking at 100 days, 250 days, 360 days. Each impulse has taken longer. The corrections behind it, we're looking at 165 days, 409 days. You could argue that this was all one impulse here. So instead of the broken up portion, we instead of 384 days, and then a similar impulse here, with 409 days behind this impulse. Plus, it's 409 days. Remember, we also had this base right here, which took a significant amount of time. So from this high right here, we corrected for 353 days. And then we have what could be a base behind it, 463 days. So if this were to be a base, it's significantly larger than this one. And in the grand scheme of things, could really lead to a massive move out. A 400-day base could genuinely lead to a massive expansion. I'm not particularly expecting this low to be taken out. It's possible. Say that this is a flat here, as we are suggesting. Make it black. If this is a large flat, we could end here and come down. We could end up here and come down. We could take out the low, and it could still be a flat. All of these options are valid. So right now, I don't have a high time frame swing for a major position. I can't enter a long or a short on high time frame because we could push up. I can't enter a long on time frame because we could come way down here. And that's something you'll have to understand if you're using Elliott wave analysis. Those are issues that you have to find a way to overcome. Primarily, if this is going to be an A, B, C, then I still think that we're going to move up out of this in a similar degree as this move here. Giving us approximately 16,000 as a real target. And then I believe, I have a feeling that the price will contract in here. Excuse me. Somewhat what you saw here, price contraction. So if we zoom back out, I'm suggesting price contraction that leads to continuation. It's just a massive continuation pattern. We had the same thing here in reverse. It was a continuation pattern that contracted. We had a move down, this continuation pattern, a move down. In reverse, we have a move up, a continuation pattern, and a move up. Could this continuation pattern have been done here with some kind of base? Yes, that's very possible. It could have been done there. If that were the case, I would still expect some retracement. We still expect to come up and then retrace and then form some kind of continuation pattern behind that. So that's what I'm looking for on high time frame, is these continuation patterns. Does it happen or we pull back to like 6,400? For me, if we go back to 6,400, that would be a very important level. You see, we stopped there. It then served as a spring point for this final move up, and then we consolidated above it for months. So if we were to retest this, there's a ton of volume there, and it's a great place for accumulation of longs. Primarily, I don't think that we're just going to come down and make a V shape out of it. I do expect some kind of accumulation period. So it could look something like this. And this final move could take a few years. Call it 23 for now, just as an idea. This for me is an idealized pattern. If this were to play out, I'd be able to leverage heavy as we reach these levels, as we reach a contraction point again right in here. If we look at VPVR, the visible range, the volume of the visible range. We really can't do that on BLX. I guess you kind of can. Let me just add more rows to this. So you see our point of control on the BLX chart is right at 6388. But look at where our value area is. And the majority of our volume is right in here, up to 9400. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see this serve as a massive area of importance for both of these next two pieces. A deviation out of it, for me, I'd be looking for a short on lower time frames to bring it back into that range. Now there will be a ton of bullishness going around. People telling you not to short the high. You don't have to short the high. You can wait for it to pull back like this and then short the bounce. It's definitely a possibility. I also alluded to a possible area of distribution. That distribution would look like a flag. Let me use a parallel channel for that. It would start to look like a bull flag. People would be calling it a bull flag. But what would happen is that we would accelerate out of it. Lower highs, lower lows, until we accelerate downward out of it. So realistically, we could be talking about quite some time before we form these lows for a reversal. For now, this is the theory I'm watching. There's going to be a lot of plays between now and then. But this is the idea that I'm watching on the highest time frames. Until it's invalidated, this is what I will be playing. On lower time frames, I'm still looking for longs. You can look at other coins. XLM, for instance, had a 2-year downtrend that's finally broken. For me, this bounce here and some sideways in here could realistically lead to some major moves from alts like XLM, ETH, and others. So while I'm watching this, it will become more important to use the fundamental analysis, or not the fundamental analysis, but to actually rely on technical analysis on these other coins rather than saying, well, I think Bitcoin is going to do this. Doesn't matter what Bitcoin's going to be doing. Play the charts in front of you as they present longs. We've broken a multi-year downtrend on many charts. So I highly recommend playing those charts looking for upside. Pullbacks are for entering long. Sure, you can short Bitcoin. You can short Ethereum. You can short a lot of coins. But remember, shorting those pullbacks, you are looking for long-term upside. All right, guys, that's really all I got. If you got any questions, leave comments below. I'd appreciate any likes, shares, and a follow.